It's late. Don't at me. Right, we've got a joke in to be explained. The joke's been submitted by Shitehawk, and it is as follows. I was worried I was going to lose my job at the crab farm. In the end, they just moved me sideways. I would have put a butt in there. Never mind. It's just my own particular, way of telling a joke. Jokes need butts, and I cannot lie. Right. I was worried I was going. Right. So basically, when humanity started out, we were hunters and gatherers, which is to say that we went out, we hunted for food. We went out, we gathered food. Yeah. With me so far. Okay. Now, at some point in our development, our increasing intelligence, natural selection, found that the smarter bunnies seemed to do better. I said bunnies then, which is confusing. The smarter people. So as we got more intelligent, we hit upon the idea at some point. We don't know who this Neanderthal or whoever it was. But somebody hit upon the idea that rather than going out and hunting animals, we could raise animals ourselves. On me holes, welcome in. You find us in the midst. I'll start again. We just for your benefit, holes, we're going to start again. Yeah?
For your consideration.
I've just had a thought, and the thought is that you can't hear Orange Spark anymore. Oh, because of the way the scene works. Right. I'll just relay what Spark. So give me that again, Spark. Okay. Spark is saying that he found the decision to stop hunting and start cultivating a very unpopular one. But so basically, when the joke we're explaining on Mihails, I should explain, is this joke, which is I was worried I was going to lose my job at the crab farm. In the end, they just moved me sideways. That's the joke that we're explaining to Shitehawk, who I believe has asked this joke to be explained before, but we're going to draw a veil over that. It doesn't matter. It's not in the rules. It's not against the rules. It's like a dog playing basketball. There just isn't a rule against it. So where were we? Yes, Dawn of Man, right. So we were hunters and we were gatherers. We'd hunt our food, we'd gather our food. Then, one day, as our intelligence developed, somebody hit upon the idea, we don't know who, some Neanderthal, some troglodyte, I don't know, came upon the idea that rather than going out and hunting animals, we could cultivate our own animals. They noticed that animals tend to eat stuff like grass and things that we don't really care for, so that wouldn't be a problem. So, what if we raised meat, as it were, and sourced it that way? Husbandry, animal husbandry. Nicky Dangerous, bring a shout out for Nicky Dangerous, please. And on me holes, indeed. Glad I made it for this, honestly, really. Okay. So,
Take the Thargoid.
So what we, excellent streamer, Nicky Dangerous. Chaos, utter chaos at her streams. And similarly, rather than going out and gathering food, this is a sort of a side channel. We don't need to go down too far, but we came up with the idea that we could take strips of land and grow produce ourselves. Rather than eat all of the food that we gathered, we could plant some of it. I guess when we became more aware of what the life cycle of plants were, we realised that we could do that. We could control where the plants appeared. Obviously, further down the line, presumably we had the Common, and then further down the line we had the Enclosure Acts. This is thousands of years later, obviously, and now we have sort of the modern farm. But we haven't got time to go into all of that. The Enclosure Act basically it reduced and removed the access that the common people had to the land, so people couldn't essentially just rock up somewhere and grow their own stuff on the common, because the common was being carved up and being given to private landowners. Yes, so through the years we have farmed many animals for food, and one of those animals that we have farmed is crabs. aside from farmed crabs, cultivated crabs, we also catch crabs, don't we? Have you ever caught crabs? Answers in chat. But Sparky would like it known that he is not. But you put these sort of crab pots out into sea with lovely things that crabs like to eat, and then they get into the pots, and then they can't get out of the pots because of the way they're designed. And then later on, the fishermen come and they pull it up. They pull it up. Reminds me of that joke about the chap whose wife went missing. You know that joke about the chap whose wife went missing? He lives out in Florida somewhere, and his wife goes missing. And then one day, the police turn up and they say, "We've got some terrible news, some good news, and some better news." And the guy goes, "Well, if it's about my wife, I should probably have the terrible news first." And so the cop says, "Well, we were searching in the ocean, and I'm afraid we pulled up a rope, and your wife's body was attached to the rope. I'm afraid she's gone." And the guy says, "Well, I felt it in my bones that something dreadful had happened, and that comfort, I'm getting a small comfort there from some consolation from at least knowing what had become of her." You mentioned there was some good news. Oh yes, so when we pulled her up, there were about half a dozen lobsters clinging onto her, and we basically kept the lobsters and we sold them to local restaurants for quite a tidy sum. And we'd just like to give you this. And he hands over an envelope with, and he thumbs through the envelope. It's like $200, $300 in the envelope. He goes, "Oh well, this will help cover the funeral costs, and it'll go some way to easing this troubled time for me. You also mentioned better news." And the cop said, "Oh yeah, no, the better news is we're going to pull her up again next Friday." Suit yourself. Anyway, Tom, oh yeah, Sparky gets it. Right, so where were we? Yeah, so one of the things that we farm is crabs. Now, so let's just put crab farm up here as a note, just to remind ourselves that we've covered crab farm. A crab, by the way, I didn't explain this. A crab is a sort of it's a beastie. It's a beastie what lives in usually the sea. I think there are some freshwater crabs out there. That one that looks like a samurai, I think that's freshwater, but don't quote me. And these have a hard exoskeleton, hard shell. I'm not going to go into too much detail with the drawing because it's not really important as a concept. There's just something about crabs that I have to relate to you in order for you to understand this joke fully. I accidentally did a good drawing then. So these things live in the sea. And what we found out about them is that if you break them open and you cook the flesh, quite nice. It's quite nice. Crab is in fact a self-portable meal. Indeed. It's a very crunchy pie. Again, we don't need the drawing to be too detailed. This should give you some idea of what a crab looks like. Now you might notice that the legs are kind of splayed out on the side there. That doesn't give it much avenue for movement. If you imagine a kind of standard tripedal animal movement where legs, well, the A legs that I'm marking here, and the B legs here essentially move in sequence. So the A's would move forward, set down, B's would lift, move forward, set down. And through repeating that cycle in what's known as a walk cycle, it would move forward. As you can imagine, it's only going to get the distance really between its, at best, its A legs. At best that, but probably less because it has to essentially avoid the B legs. Not very good progress, not very good progress. And what it's found, evolutionarily, is that it's easier, given its structure, to move sideways. So I'm going to put move sideways up here, because that's another important part of getting this joke. Okay. Because the jokester, in this case Shite Hawk, he's made this joke where he said, I was worried I was going to lose my job at the crab farm. So he's an employee at a crab farm. Now, a crab farm is, as well as it being like a physical space, I wouldn't look up crab farm, by the way, because it's nightmarish. It's horrible. And I don't mean because crabs are horrible. No, it's not. It's not fun for the crabs. It's not fun for the crabs. There is an ongoing argument that I have with Groggy Boggy as to whether the joke should be, I was worried I was going to lose my job at the crab factory or the crab farm. And the fact that that debate exists, I think speaks to some extent to how awful crab farms are for the crab. So, where were we? I'll start again. At the dawn of... No, I know where we are. Orange Spark is currently crying. Yes, so a farm is staffed by people, and those people need organising, right? So what we have in pretty much any large-scale organisation, and the clue's in the name, of people, is a structure to that organisation. Because without a structure, you're not really organised. You're just a bunch of people. And business structures come in all shapes and flavours. You might have a very sort of narrow structure with lots of ranking in. You'll find this in organisations that sort of suggest to one a steady progression. I think this is quite common in the civil service, where you'd have different levels. So this person is responsible for these two people, who are responsible for these two people. So this person ultimately is responsible for all of these people. What you also get is very sort of slow, very low, sort of flat structures sometimes as well. So you might have somebody who's sitting on... So like a sales manager might have... A senior sales manager might be in charge of a load of regional managers. And each of these regional managers might have a large number of sales representatives. And in any organisation as well, there are sort of rules that you have to follow, and sometimes those rules get broken, and you have to have what is known as disciplinary action. And various forms of disciplinary action exist. A docking of wages, perhaps to cover lost income. That's quite common in, or used to be, I don't know if it still is, in restaurants. Often if a member of the waiting staff failed to get a bill from a table, then the cost of that food would come out of the waiter's wages, waiting staff's wages. For example, the worst one, of course, is to have that employment terminated. You do something so egregiously bad, that means very bad, that you get fired, that you no longer work for that company anymore. It could be quite difficult. Situation, and that's the situation that the joke teller finds themselves in. They're worried that they're going to get fired from their job at the crab farm. But there is something else that can happen. Sometimes you'll do something bad that isn't egregious enough to warrant sacking. It might even be that it was, partly an accident, something that fell out of your responsibility, really, but somehow you've ended up carrying the can for it. And as a result of that, you've become diminished in the eyes of your immediate colleagues. So for this example, there might be somebody who made a catastrophic error on an order. chance in a million sort of thing. Maybe highlighting a structural problem in the systems that you use. So it didn't feel entirely fair that somebody should get fired. So instead, they'd be taken from this department, this region. So right, we're going to move you over to Norwich. You're gonna go and work in the Norwich team. And because, okay, if you can imagine being promoted as being moved up, being demoted, another possible disciplinary action. I don't know why I decided to change which word I was writing down then. Thank you. I find Tristram Shandy easy to follow than this joke explanation. Fair. So instead of that being an upward movement or a downward movement, this is of course a sideways movement. Yeah? Move sideways. So be moving sideways in the organisation. So here, what's happening in the joke? We've finally come down to it. When all is said and done, enough shilly-shallowing. We've set up all the pieces, and now we're going to put them together in one beautiful whole, which makes a. Have you ever put together a beautiful whole? Answers in chat. That makes a wonderful joke. You see, the person who's afraid of being fired is moved sideways. So not only does that suggest the kind of disciplinary action that they have fallen under as being moved sideways, but also it echoes the very movement of the animal that they are farming, i.e. the crab. And it's the simultaneity of those two meanings in move sideways that that creates that humorous response. So, Shitehawk, have I explained that joke to your satisfaction? If so, we'll get back to finishing the stream. I'm still unsure of the evolutionary history of this crab animal. Now, well, the evolution of the crab is very fascinating because one could argue that the crab is almost like the default evolutionary shape for a creature to become. There's a term. Oh, I raised a bit that I didn't want to there. There is a term, and I can't remember what it is, but there is a term for this. Is that something which looks like a crab has emerged through completely separate and distinct branches of the evolutionary tree, as if Mother Nature, as if the Earth is deliberately set up to create environments that afford for the evolutionary shape and function of the crab. And I can't go into any more detail of it for that, but is that the sort of thing that you had in mind, Shitehawk? There we go. Lizard Orb knows. So there. Carcinization is an example of a phenomenon called convergent evolution, which is when different groups independently evolve the same traits. It's the same reason both bats and birds have wings, but intriguingly, the crab-like body plan has emerged many times among very closely related animals. Shitehawk says no, joke explained. Because we're deep into it now. We're deep into it. What do I want?